No, that was not Black Sabbath. Is it close? It could be a little close. I don't know. I'll tell you. It is Blue Murder. Blue Murder is the name of the band. They came out at the wrong time. They came out probably right before the grunge thing took off. So, and the reason I played that is because the guitarist was John Sykes. John Sykes, one of the most underrated guitarists ever in rock. Wrong place, wrong. It's funny. I was just talking about Steelheart and another band that came out at the wrong time, and then here we are. Whitesnake is a good connection, and I'll talk about that connection here in just a second. You know what? I'll go ahead and play John Sykes. I'll play you something else of his that I'm sure a lot of you guys will know. You gotta play the tall hi-hat. I dare you not to headbang. Oh wait, listen to this. I'm sure you guys knew that. That is John Sykes. Man, John Sykes went through some tough times. And he's easily one of the... He just had such a signature guitar sound that is irreplaceable. It was very wild sounding, but it also had a lot of like blues and soul in it. But the guy was clearly talented and just very creative, right? He passed away at the age of 65 of cancer very recently. And he was a very private guy. Man, there's a long story. I actually have like a People magazine thing about, but I don't even think I need it because I know, like I know a lot, okay? Because I am an 80s metalhead, and I knew a lot of bands, and I really got into a lot of the lesser known bands in the late 90s. So John Sykes started out, as far as I know anyway, in Thin Lizzy. He was in Thin Lizzy back in the early 80s, I think, for 1 or 2 albums. I'm no expert of his, but I'm very aware of him. Then he jumped into Whitesnake, and he was in Whitesnake. I believe the first album he played with Whitesnake was Slide It In. What an album title. I believe that was the first album that John Sykes played in. You know what? I will show you at least what the guy looked like, because I want to honor him today. The guy was a freaking legend. Everybody knows that Still of the Night, but he wrote a lot of the songs on that whole album. Is This Love? Big Whitesnake hit. He took Whitesnake to the next level. There you go. Whitesnake, Thin Lizzy guitarist John Sykes dies of cancer. Thoughtful, kind, and charismatic. The guy looked like a Viking stallion. He looked like he could have been on those scandalous romance novels back in the 80s, So, and I think sometimes your good looks can get in your way sometimes. Some of these guys, they're really, really good looking, and they're so freaking talented, but somehow maybe that kind of hurts them. Like, it gets in, like, people don't take them as seriously as they should, because John Sykes was a very good looking guy. Look at it, he had a baby face. But man, the guy was so freaking talented, and every band was wanting to get him. And this is him later in life, we all age. The next album after Slide It In was the self-titled album that had all those hits on it. And here's the thing. There was a big falling out, and I don't know, it's he said versus he said. David Coverdale had a falling out with not just John Sykes, but the band. And one thing you need to know about David Coverdale, some of my younger viewers might not know too much about David Coverdale. I think the first time I even discovered Coverdale was the self-titled album with John Sykes. I didn't really know much about them, but I loved that album so much that caused me to go back and check out Slide It In. And I might have checked out the album before that too. But one thing that I found out later was that David Coverdale, he owned the title Whitesnake, and he was one of these guys that he would just recycle musicians, you know, like every album he would just fire the whole band and get a whole new crop of people. I would imagine that he was a hard guy to work for, right? Because you never knew, like today might be the day we get fired. So I think the story goes, David Coverdale, they recorded the most, you know, the most popular album. He had like vocal trouble, and so he had to like, I think he couldn't even like finish all of his vocals for the album. So then there was a big fight between him and John Sykes, and so then he ended up just, and not personally, he had somebody else just say, "Hey guys, you're fired," and he hired 4 new guys, and so. When you watch the music video for Still of the Night and for, you know, some of those other hits from that album, you know, the one that had Tawny Katane all spread out over a car because David Coverdale married her, those musicians in that video, they did not record on that album. That was John Sykes. So John Sykes was really hurt by the whole thing. You know, he had a lot invested in Whitesnake. I think it was his next step towards his career really, really progressing. And then he gets fired right at the last minute. So then he ends up forming Blue Murder, but he forms Blue Murder in like 1989. And that album is phenomenal. You know, like fellow metalheads that are really into all things, you know, 80s metal, 80s rock, I think most of them probably know Blue Murder. And especially they know John Sykes, because John Sykes was just such a freaking legend, and his talent was, you know, he was up there with the greats like Eddie Van Halen and Steve Vai and Joe Satriani and countless others. He was at that level, you know, not just talented but also creative, and just had such a signature sound. So then after Blue Murder, you know, I'll play you another song from Blue Murder that was, I think it would have been a hit. All right, everybody dance. Everybody get up and dance. WNBC.
She said, "Come lay with me, darling. Take my love from me." She said, "I'll be yours forever if you just believe in me." Honey.
By the way, that's John Sykes singing. He was the singer.
Angel feels like I'm a dying day.
Here we go.
She said, "Trust